I was devastated. We all were devastated. I knew there wasn't much I could do on my own. But then I realized that God had placed Esther in the palace so she could save us.
Mordecai asked me to go before the king, which, strictly speaking, I was not allowed to do. You see, no one is supposed to enter the king's court without a summons, and the king had not summoned me for over a month. So at first, I told Mordecai I couldn't.
What did you think of Esther's response to Mordecai's request?
I could understand both sides. Something had to be done, but it's hard when you're the one that has to do it.
When Hatak came back and told me what Mordecai had said, I realized he was right. God had put me in the palace for this very reason. So we fasted and prayed for 3 days, and then I went before the king.
But King Xerxes favored Esther and granted her mercy. Esther requests that the king attend a banquet, at which point she planned to reveal her heritage and Haman's scheme. But when the banquet came, Esther remained silent. Why didn't you say anything to the king? That was the whole point of the banquet, right?
Honestly, it was divine intervention. Something just didn't feel right. I knew it wasn't the time to speak.
Believing it to be a testament to his greatness, that the queen would expressly request his presence at a banquet, Haman left the palace feeling good about his career. But upon leaving, he spotted Mordecai at the gate, a sighting that in time would prove more consequential than either could have imagined.
I knew I had convinced the king that these Jewish people were a problem. But, the 13th day of Adar was so far away, and I just couldn't stand to see that man being so disrespectful every day until then. I couldn't stand it.
I suggested him to build a gallows and have that Mordecai hang. I know it sounds awful, but you didn't have to live with him, all right? Every single night he would come home and be moping about it. The Mordecai this and the Mordecai that. I have a household to take care of and children to raise. I couldn't put up with it anymore and have to ruin our family dinners every night.
So Haman had the gallows made, but that night the king was up making his own plans that would both shock Haman and bring to halt his plans for Mordecai.
It wasn't unusual for me to be up at night. There were many a nights where I couldn't sleep. It just so happened that on this particular night, I stumbled upon that record.
The record the king stumbled upon was none other than the account of his 2 guards' plot to kill him, and the vigilance of Mordecai who saved his life. So the king decided to honor Mordecai. But how?
I was called before the king to help him to honor a man, being his top visor, of course. So I told him that he should have royal robes brought forth, which the king himself had worn, and the horse which the king had rode on to go through the streets of Persia, with a top advisor shouting, "This is what is done for a man the king wishes to honor."
Well, that's quite a grand honor for you to suggest for Mordecai.
I thought he was honoring me. It should have been me. I was the king's most favored official, not Mordecai. I had to walk before that horse, spouting lies about this Mordecai's virtue. It was a disgrace.
It was great.
I warned him, be careful with that Mordecai. Because they say he's got a god and he's powerful. That Haman, he should have listened to me better and do what I told him to do.
He should have known at that point that things were not going to go very well. He really should have got the hint. But Haman's Haman.
Before Haman had time to bemoan his humiliation, he was swept away to another banquet upon Esther's request. Here the final chapter of our story unfolds. The 13th day of Adar was approaching, and it was Esther's time to act.
At this point, I was completely unaware that any of this was going on. My own wife, And I didn't even know she was a Jew. And Haman. Don't even get me started on what I don't know about Haman. All I knew was that there was a reason for this banquet, and something of great importance that Esther needed to tell me.
I was careful about it. He had already promised to grant my request, and what I asked for was my life and the lives of my people. I didn't accuse anyone right away. I just told him that we were going to be annihilated because of the evil ploy of a single man. Of course he was furious. So only at that moment did I reveal that it was Haman, the king's own counselor, who had plotted to kill me and all of the Jews.
What? No. Haman! You are my most trusted counselor! No. How dare you plot against my queen!
No. Esther!
Guard!
Esther, please! I didn't know! I never knew you...
It was terrifying, and also a tremendous relief. But our fight certainly wasn't over yet. There was still the edict to contend with, and I couldn't bear the calamity that was going to come upon my people.
Well, first of all, I was given the house of Haman and the signet ring of the king. So Esther and I were permitted to write a new edict. So although Haman's edict couldn't be revoked, this new edict allowed that on the 13th day of Adar, the Jews could rightfully defend themselves against anyone who sought to destroy them.
I've changed so much since I came to the palace. To think that I didn't want to be queen in the beginning.
Why do you think things resolved the way they did?
Well, first of all, the easy answer is because God wanted it to happen that way.
Well, I would have to say, the God of Israel really changed things around.
I think it was the God of the Jews. I think he just was powerful.
Ultimately, it was all part of God's plan.
But the complicated answer is, he doesn't always just, send lightning from heaven and things like that. God puts people in places where we can have an effect on the future, on history.
So, Queen Esther, how has this all affected you?
Because of all this, I realized that God has a plan for everyone. He put me in the palace to save his people. We each have to choose to do God's will.
How does it feel to know that the rest of Persia is celebrating in the wake of your downfall? Rumor has it that a holiday may even occur as a result of this.
My client has nothing more to say.